Hello there. And
Hello.
welcome to the channel who worships all that is unholy. Praise
Oh my
Asmodeus in all his glory. Welcome to the Flycast.
Disclaimer, that's a little leftover from last night. I don't actually praise devils,
I do.
but apparently Steve does. Well, my character last night was a cleric of Asmodeus. That was fun.
Right.
A little,
fucked up at all.
Yeah. Little flipping that whole cleric idea on its head a little bit there. I like doing that. Anyway, welcome to the Flycast. Those of you hanging out here with us live, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you're watching this later on through YouTube or downloaded through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for following us that way. As always, if you're not a part of the Discord, go ahead and click a link somewhere or whatever. You'll find a link there to our Discord. That way you can figure out what we're going to be talking about beforehand and potentially drop some questions in there for us as well. But thank you. Welcome. So if you don't know, we are just a couple of nerds who really enjoy playing D&D, have a decent amount of DM experience, and decided, hey, let's make a podcast. And I think this is episode 14 now.
Yeah, we're up there.
Yeah, so, been going for a little
like
while.
A whole season's worth right now.
Yeah, been having some fun, so, yeah, I mean, that's who we are, what we do. Normally we've got a topic that we talk about for a little while, and then go ahead and take some questions from the Discord. So, without further ado, we'll just go ahead and jump on into this week's episode. It kind of came from somewhat of a suggestion from the Discord chat, so that's another reason to join that. You can give us ideas as to what to talk about also. But idea was more or less around encounters and encounter building, and just kind of thought that was a good one to chat about. We, most of what we do is a little bit DM-centric here, and this is one thing for sure that I think could be helpful maybe for newer DMs, or even just fun to talk about. So we'll just chat a bit about like how we go about approaching encounter building and balancing it and all that fun stuff. So without further ado, I guess I'll just go ahead and hand it on over to Steve, and then we'll just kind of chat about it for a little while. So what's I guess, like, what is your approach to encounter building? Do you
Oh boy.
Yeah. I guess we'll just leave it open-ended and go from there.
I really like themes.
Yeah.
I like to, for me, it's about making it, I need it for me to make sense for me first, before I can make it make sense to other people.
So you mean you're not one of those DMs who's like, I'm just going to roll something random and then, 12 bugbears jump out of a bush?
I've done some encounters that I've actually pre-planned that I'm like, I'm human, but yeah. I think I made one for like Tuesday game where it was like, it was designed literally just to get you some experience and some camaraderie. And it was giant spiders in a wine cellar, and everybody's like, how'd they get there? And I had to stop. I had to think, and I just had to say over the table, guys, I don't know. I just fucking made this just so I can get you some experience. I mean, at least I came clean. I'm like, I was stumped. I'm like, I have no fucking clue how they got in here. I literally tried to make you guys a fun little encounter because you guys are low level and stuff like that. But I do honestly try to like, make them theme based, area based. I could talk about my Sunday game a little bit, or I could even talk about my Eberron game. Like, I try to keep it central to where it is. I like to use CRs as a guide.
Yeah.
As a guide, not always the end all be all, but as a guide, because like one of my players had said, well, gosh, that fight took forever, but we only got like 250 experience points. And where they had another fight where they got a lot more than that because it was only one creature. So that's where the CRs are, can sometimes kind of skew things a little bit. The creature itself, and I had to explain is like, I'm going to use these two examples. I had a pirate fight and I had a troll. Okay. So the reason why they got more experience for the troll is because it was a higher CR level, all right, creature rating. Now, what they didn't take into consideration with this encounter is they completely got the jump on the troll. They outnumbered him.
Right.
So they were able to really do a lot of damage, and I rolled like shit and didn't hit them. They got very lucky. This was a level 2 that I gave them a troll because I wanted something. I was going to try to like,
level 2 party.
it could kill them. Yeah, it can. And I was like, this is one of those encounters where you're like, okay, I'm going to trust the player. Let's see how they handle it. And they took caution. They rolled good on their stealth. I had the creature distracted with like eating a deer, literally just. And now the pirates, they weren't. They caught them a little bit flat-footed. Old D&D term there for you.
Yeah.
And there was more of them, so I had more action economy. So they were really taken aback. And this is newer players, so I had to explain, like, you guys really got lucky with the troll. They actually could have killed one or two of you. Mm-hmm. The other one was based more around your level. So, because I didn't want to flat out TPK you, there was a lot of them, but they only had about. I made these pirates. I used a bandit stat block, and I just changed it. I just changed their names and like maybe changed their pictures for the tokens. And they only had like 11 or 12 hit points. So I mean, for compared to a commoner, that's a lot. But for a level 2, level 3 D&D party, that's swoogity. We're gonna cut off your booty, kind of thing. Especially when you got some melee heavy, cats. So that's kind of what I wanted to. I'm rambling a little bit, but I try to make it to where it fits a specific area. Mm-hmm. I use a CR as a guideline, and then I make my decision. I'm a gut guy, I kind of go with my gut, and then I'm like, we'll see where this goes. Because if it starts to go super south, depending on how I'm wanting to play the creature, I can either try to play the creature how it's supposed to be, or I can go, I don't want to kill everybody. I'll try to pull back the reins a little bit. But I have killed a few players here and there, sometimes on accident, sometimes on purpose. And it was mainly because it was a decision in the moment, not out of anger, but a decision in the moment. So.
Yeah, I think talking about just kind of like going with your gut and being a gut guy or whatever, I think that's a lot easier to do once you have a good amount of experience. Because I mean, I do that a lot. So like, I would say, I mean, I could talk about kind of my process in a little bit here, but like as far as the balancing side of things, yeah, I mean, I'll use some tools sometimes. I'll use, there's this website, Kobold Fight Club. I use that a lot. But, like, as I've kind of gotten more and more experience, I just kind of, like, you just kind of know. Like, you almost have a sense of what your party can and can't take. And then that kind of just coupled with knowing how to kind of, like, rebalance things in the moment if you need to also, has just kind of brought me to the point to where I normally don't spend a ton of time like balancing encounters. I don't really use a whole lot of tools anymore. Yeah, I more or less am like, okay, that looks about right for this level of party, and if I have to, I'll scale back. I normally err on the side of it being too difficult because it's easy enough to scale back. You can't really ramp up the difficulty though once the party gets in there. So like. Every once in a while I do kind of hit that point to where I'm like, well, I mean, at least it was fun, hopefully, but they just couldn't hit you or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think just being able to go with your gut will come with time. And I've certainly been able to do that a lot more as I've kind of grown into it. Just kind of as far as like my whole process and whatnot, I agree with you. Like I think the encounter has to mean something. So whether it's an encounter that's like specifically planned as like part of the campaign, or it's a random encounter, like I don't I don't even love the term random encounter because that's not really how I do it.
Not
Like
really big on it.
yeah, at least the way that I do random encounters now is more or less like I play in 3 or 4 like what I would call like travel encounters or whatever.
Right.
And I might not necessarily know which one will come up. I might roll to decide which one of them I want to use. But like each one of those is planned ahead of time and has a reason for existing, as opposed to like just rolling randomly and being like, well, this chart says that 10 goblins attack the party. Okay, that's fine. What I like to do is what you were saying, like it has to make sense to me as well. So I'm not going to leave it up to fate right there. I'm going to have decided beforehand, okay, like there's an encounter here. It's 10 goblins attacking the party, but I planned this out beforehand, so if I end up using that one, I know who those goblins are, where they came from. There's a cave nearby if the party really wants to check it out. Like, there's all these things that can lead even a quote-unquote random encounter into a side quest.
Right.
And like, I think something that I've really learned is to use those. But yeah, I mean, I've started like calling them more or less travel encounters, but use those travel encounters to feed into other things, feed into side quests, or at least just kind of like make the world seem more alive. Like an encounter should have a point to it. It shouldn't just be there to get into combat just for the hell of it. Like there should be some reason behind it. I feel like.
Sometimes I'll use those as like a filler too, like I like you use them as travel encounters. I do too to a point, but sometimes I use them as a filler option because like I've got players who really like role playing. I like players who really like to roll their dice. So I'm a Libra guy, so I'm a little bit of a balanced fella. So like sometimes I'll have it to where I'll try to plan out like at least one travel encounter, but it's a planned one. And it's a you run across X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And like I try to make it to where either it's something challenging or every now and a great then I like to do what I call dice roll encounters.
Mm-hmm.
I love those because they're funny to me. Like you get a higher level party who gets attempted to get mugged by fucking bandits.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna wipe the floor with them. And that's what it's for. It's to showcase your character's ability to like, I'm a badass, but there's also going to be encounters that are too big even for your britches. Like I think one of my favorite ones was like, and I know like Jordan's asked me like, how do you decide with those type of encounters? And I say I have to trust my players because not every encounter is going to be fair. I try to be fair, but like when it comes to story stuff, like if you guys are infiltrating a city, like we did in one of my games, where you guys are in pandemonium, you guys are infiltrating the city, you need to basically desecrate a religious item. You're outnumbered clearly, and I set that up to be like this could go really, really poorly, but you have your abilities to help get you out of it. I like those kinds of encounters because it puts me on the edge of my seat. It puts you on the edge of your seat. But I also like making encounters where you feel like a badass. So I go back and forth.
Yeah, I agree, and I think all of those have a purpose, right? Like, so those ones that could be deadly, like, I mean, they can be deadly. You have no idea what's going to happen. We'll see. And yeah,
we'll
see. Trust your players to be smart about it. Like running is always an option. They'll probably come up with something creative though that I never thought of. Like there's a lot that can happen there. I think those are some of the ones that I really like to do. But then you do have to have lighter ones too, because like if the party feels like every time they get into combat they're going to die,
it's literally life and death.
Man, it can get pretty heavy. So yeah, those lighter dice rolls where it's just like, hey, I get to like just really wade through an army of bad guys. Like that's pretty cool. That's a lot of fun, and that's still like while it might be a light encounter, it still like serves a purpose. It lets you show off how powerful you are. You just get to have some fun. It brings some levity into the situation. Plus, those ones too sometimes can like bring in some really interesting like social interaction. Like, okay, you just caught a group of bandits trying to ambush somebody. You are way more powerful than they are. What are you going to do? Are you just going to kill them all? Are you going to try and show them the error of their ways? Are you going to try and hire them? Now they work for you. Are you now a bandit lord? Like, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can play with that and have fun with it when it's, it might not be the most dire of circumstances or anything.
Right. How many NPCs can I get?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I'm notorious for that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it should always have some sort of purpose. And yeah, the purpose can still be like just for some fun, for some levity, for some to show off new powers. You did this, and I've started to do it a little bit more now because you do it a lot. Where okay, the party just leveled to level 8. And everyone's got some fun new abilities that they want to test out. Okay, cool. Well, here's 15 goblins. Go have fun. Try out your new stuff. You'll get a rest right afterwards. That way, it's not a big deal. Something along those lines to where, I mean, as far as like as far as the plot of the campaign goes, like. This didn't really matter, but like it gave everyone an opportunity to kind of like figure out what their stuff does, show off a little bit, and then again maybe there's some role play that comes into it as well. I think that can be really useful also. I think those are all good times to use an encounter. I think and just kind of gauging the party, it's generally as long as there's a reason for the encounter, it should be pretty good. All I'm hearing is let your players have fun before you actually try and kill them. I mean, that's like I totally agree with that though. Like I think there should be varying levels, right? And I also think having multiple encounters in one like traveling day is a really good tactic to use as well, right? Like soften them up a little bit with something lighter, and then like have the big hit come, and then the party never really knows, right? Like, do I have to save my resources or can I spend them all? I also really like the tactic of the party goes to, they make camp for the night and just like run through the whole taking watch and everything as well, because party has no idea if something's going to happen or not. I like to mix it up like that.
I like. I'll use an example of what he may be talking about. I actually made a really hard encounter for it because it made sense for me. They had to go get this horn. We've talked about this item, but the Sith was inside waiting for him. They cleared out the entire dungeon, had to clear out the entire thing before these doors would open. And I used a day of stat block, and I did 27 points to a level 4 barbarian with the first hit.
Nice.
Right. He didn't rage. But I also had turn initiative. I had a little CR 20. Or as in CR20, I had a roll of 20.
Initiative 20, yeah.
And then they did about 40 points of damage to her until I made her go up in the air and then transform into a bronze dragon. Now, this is where you get a little creativity before this encounter happened. I play tested the dragon to make sure that if it breathed on them, it would not completely kill somebody. Well, it would have, but I changed the damage die.
Yeah.
So I only ended up dropping somebody like once, but I had them go through that. It was tense because, now they're fighting a dragon at level 4. But I changed the breath damage. And here's another thing with that encounter is that I only got to use my breath once. So the dice was telling the story. The whole purpose behind it was I was goading the party into going, prove your worth. You want this horn. Prove that you can take it. using a warrior kind of mentality. And they did awesome. They ended up taking her out of her dragon form, and that's when I stopped the fight, They proved themselves worthy. Right. It was like I thought I was going to have to pull some punches. I didn't. It was fun for me. It was fun for them. Probably not as fun for Jazz because he got to learn that I save on spells a lot. Feels bad.
I think that's a cool example, though, because I feel like a lot of times you view a combat encounter as, just fight until the thing is dead or whatever. But there are so many ways to mix up a combat encounter and make it feel fresh and different. Like, that's a great way right there, right? Like, the point of this encounter wasn't to kill the thing. It was to prove yourself. With encounters where it's lopsided in favor of the party, right? Like if it's 5 goblins ambushing a level 3 party or whatever, the goblins have no chance, and after one round maybe they realize that and start to flee. Mixing up enemy tactics, mixing up like the goal of the encounter, something along the lines of maybe there's a necromancer with animated minions or whatever. You kill the necromancer and everything else goes away. When you can kind of like mix in tactics and different success or fail states, it can really make what could be potentially another monotonous encounter feel fresh and new and different, especially if you can give the party a chance to kind of use some different abilities. I just kind of think back to and it helps if your players are creative as well, but I think back to the Wine Woman Adventure Tour here, this reboot, when you guys were fighting the Baron. You were outclassed. This dude was a pretty powerful magic user. The party was level 2, I think, only. And he was casting like fireball. He only did the fireball once, I think, but like that was kind of a wake up call to, oh shit, this dude's strong.
Yeah, we are fudged.
But I think it was Megan who had the idea to try and take away his staff, which was his arcane focus. And that was interesting. Like, there's not really a rule for it or anything, but it was a fun way for the party as a whole decided, like, to try and change what their success state is, right? Like, rather than just try to kill this dude right now, we're going to try and take away some of his power. And ended up being successful in doing that, and that changed the entire dynamic of the battle. I think stuff like that can be really, really interesting as well. I mean, that right there is an example of really the party completely controlling that, but you can do the same thing as a DM, where you can really kind of flip the standard encounter idea on its head. Which I think the more you can mix things up, the more you can make things different than what's expected, the more fun that you potentially can have there.
Exactly. Things like that really, really make you, like, my next encounters. Like I got a dungeon planned for my Tuesday game, and I've got a travel encounter that makes sense because you're in a certain area. I even made an NPC for that group because I realized that nobody in the party had any kind of tracking capabilities. So I was like, I'm going to make this hick with a bow come to life. So, but our next one this weekend, as long as I'm not dying,
right
after I get done playing, we're doing our own little like our own Helm's Deep, thing with the city of Dagnan. And now I've got a lot of practice making these big encounters. I actually took tokens, and I made NPCs representing, like, one token represented 1,000 soldiers. I've got a couple of guys who have experience, like, for their players anyway. They're soldiers and background stuff, so they can help command armies. I've got siege equipment. So we're probably just going to fight the entire session. That's actually going to be pretty exciting. Like, the map has got thunder and lightning. We put another rhythm bot in the channel. So I think it'll be fun to try to break up the monotony, because, it's going to be a long encounter. But like if people start getting too close, I have a separate map to where there'll be like smaller skirmishes. So that way it'll be very creative in that. So I think they'll like that as well.
Yeah.
Making me super mad at myself, but sounds fun.
Yeah,
like it.
I think again, just kind of with the whole, like Jazz was saying, it doesn't have to end in death. As a DM, our job is to create tension. That's what it is, and anything that does that is a successful encounter.
You're fine.
Right? Like if you're, if it's. Yeah. I mean, no matter how it is, whatever that like success or fail state is, yeah, I don't know, just kind of random thought there. But that said, we are roughly halfway through, and we've got a decent amount of questions this week. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we will be back on the other side taking questions from the Discord. So everyone hang out. We will be back in about 3.
My breath passes. Such wonderful music for such wonderful people. I want you to, wonderful. Wonderful. Oh.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Hello again,
I got
everyone.
them moves like Jagger.
Yeah? Just like that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to the Flycast. We are back from break. Yay. Hooray.
Yay.
Talking this week about
All praise
encounters.
Asmodeus. Yay!
All praise Asmodeus, indeed. Talking this week about encounters, encounter building, balancing encounters, ideas, all that fun stuff. Had a good little front end, and now we'll go ahead and dive on into questions from the Discord. We've got quite a few this week. So, yeah, again, if you haven't joined the Discord community, do so. There'll be a link wherever. And every week we'll put in what our topic is going to be, take questions. Questions don't necessarily have to be on topic, but it helps if they are. And we've got a lot that are this week. It was a pretty cool topic. So let's go ahead and jump on in there, kill the music, and we will move forward. All right, what do we got here? So, first question. How do you tweak encounters of creatures that are so commonly fought in D&D? Or do you, I guess? Do you have an answer to that one, Steve?
It just depends. I mean, if I want it to be a standard encounter, it's going to be a standard encounter.
Mm-hmm.
If I want something epic, but I think it's going to kill the party, I might make an adjustment.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll play test damages. I'll look at characters like sheets and see what they can take, if they have enough defenses. I try to prepare parties for certain things to make sure they have the right tools for the job.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't always go that way. But yeah, honestly, it's a if I need to tweak something, I will. But if it's supposed to be a minor encounter, that's what it's supposed to be. If it's supposed to be, I may need to consider my tactics encounter. Mm-hmm. Again, we can tweak it before the game, see how it goes, roll the dice, check your players' abilities and go from there. That's how I normally do it.
Yeah, for me, I'd say it depends on who I'm running for. If this is like the first time I've run for a group of people or whatever, I probably won't change much of anything. I'll leave, like, if it's a group of goblins, hey, it's a group of goblins. I like to play them tactically. Like, I like to play a creature the way they should be played, right? A group of goblins, they're going to use kind of hit and run, ranged tactics. A group of kobolds is going to instead gang up on one person with their pack tactics. That sort of thing. But yeah, if I haven't really run for a group a ton, I probably won't change much. If it's, for instance, the one when we venture to our group, I run for you guys all the time. We're very familiar with certain things, and to be honest, like, if every time we start a new campaign, I don't want to do the exact same thing, right? Like, you start at level 1 again, and you're like, okay, well, last 3 times, the first encounter we did was goblins. I don't want to do that again. So I will sometimes, like, just try and find a different type of enemy in roughly the same challenge rating range. Or, like, sometimes what I'll do is I'll completely, like, buff the heck or debuff the heck out of monsters too.
Right.
I've changed things quite a bit before. Like, for instance, in the last Wine Women Adventure Tour, you guys fought a Hydra. A Hydra is normally like a CR5 or something like that, and you guys still did a really good job beating the crap out of this thing, but I brought that all the way up to like a CR12 or 13 or something like that. Like, I gave it a whole lot of extra stuff. So I think too, it is important to remember as a DM that the stats in the monster manual or whatever book you're looking at is what a typical creature's stats are, in the same way that an adventurer is not a typical commoner. The goblin that you're making might not be a typical goblin, or the night hag that you're making may not be a typical night hag. So you can definitely feel free to mix up anything as much as you want to.
Right.
Question from our favorite damage slut. What was the worst mistake you've made with an encounter? Either too hard or too easy for the party?
I don't know if I'd call it a mistake. I would call it forgetting that the creature had more than one attack and accidentally just killing a player outright. So I wouldn't call it a mistake. I'd call it a learning experience, because I had to learn to pay more attention to what things did for a level 1 party, thinking that would be okay. That was one of those times that I completely relied on my own knowledge and not play testing it, and then going, not play testing it, and I legitimately kill somebody's character with whop. That was it. Like, not just. I think
there was a one-hit instant death.
Yeah, it was an instant death, and I'm like, oh shit! And I wouldn't call it a mistake. I'd call it that was a learning experience for me. Now, fortunately, he took that rather well. Right. But some players might not have, and I did genuinely feel bad about that. And I'm already nervous with low level parties anyway.
Yeah, so, I mean, level 1 can be tough. Yeah, level 1 can be tough. I don't really know exactly what I would say. I don't think I have a whole lot of times when I made anything too difficult, because I normally am pretty good. I feel like, anyway, I'm pretty good at being able to pull back in the moment. But if I make something too weak, it's like there's nothing I can do, right? Because I feel like you can, as a DM, I feel like you can pull back in the moment, and the party, even if they realize that you're doing it, they won't mind so much. And to be honest, most of the time they probably won't realize it much. But you can't really ramp up the difficulty in the moment, because the party will realize that, and they won't appreciate that. And that's what it's about, right? Everyone having fun. So if it's not fun, don't do it. So for me, yeah, my mistakes are, like, the big mistakes are ever if it's too easy. I think I've got one, actually. I think the biggest one was the first time through the Wine Women Adventure Tour, and you guys were battling the Beholder Crevathan. And it was still a decent fight. I got to do some fun stuff with it, but it was nowhere near. This is the first time I ran a Beholder, and it was nowhere near as epic as I wanted it to be. It was like a couple of long sessions leading up to this. This was kind of like the culmination of a big arc. Jordan even, like, prepared a speech and everything. Like, it was a lot of fun getting to this point, and I was like, okay, it's a Beholder, so he's hyper intelligent. I had crafted his lair to be, like, super specific to what his needs are, and tried to, like I was trying to make this challenging and intimidating, and I was like, man, if I kill someone, I kill someone. We'll see. Let's do this. And and I printed out. I had taken a regular beholder and changed some things a little bit here and there, and printed out the stat block. And I don't know what happened, but for whatever reason, the armor class was like it just didn't print right, like I didn't save something. I don't know, but a beholder's AC is normally like 18 or something, and I wanted this to be just a little bit more. I think I was shooting for a 19 AC on him, and I accidentally printed it out with it saying 12, and I didn't catch it. And the party starts attacking it, and they're hitting with everything, and I'm like, man, you've got to be kidding me. And I mean, he went down pretty easily. Again, I got to do some fun stuff because he had legendary actions and whatnot, but I think that was maybe, I don't know, I still feel like the party had a fun time with it, but that's one of the most disappointed that I've been myself, because I really was looking forward to this epic fight that ended up being... I don't want to say it was a complete cakewalk, but it was underwhelming from my side of the table anyway.
Right.
That was probably my biggest mistake that I've made with making an encounter. So make sure to double check your monster stats.
And again, that's a learning thing. So it's like that's just comes with experience. Like I've gotten better with like checking some things. Like we said in the beginning, you can make it, some encounters you're like, well, we're just going to have to see how this plays out. Mm-hmm. But you can play test certain encounters too. I do it all the time.
Yeah. Next question. What are your thoughts on the challenge rating system itself?
A guideline.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a good guideline for me personally. It helps me go, okay, do I want my party to... I mainly use it for experience, honestly. I mean, like, do I want them, like, the challenge, I can ramp up a small, like, a lower CR, make it challenging. Mm-hmm. A higher CR sometimes is just like, do I have a goal for the party? Do I want them to try to hit certain levels at certain points in the story? I can ramp those up, or I can take them down if I feel like they're going too quick. So it's really is just a guideline for me.
I agree. I don't think it's bad. I think it requires some experience to kind of understand how best to use it. Because like when I first started DMing, I would look at that and I said, okay, this encounter has a challenge rating of 2. So that must mean that it's a pretty good encounter for a level 2 party. Nope, level 2 party is going to kill it pretty easily. And that gets increasingly true the more powerful a party is, right? Like a level 10 party will take on a challenge rating like 17 encounter and be fine. I think part of this is like... Part of it is that D&D is a really unbalanced, 5e anyway, is really unbalanced the more powerful the party gets. By the time you reach like 6th level, challenge rating is not
That's where you need to get a little bit more creative.
Yeah, it's not what the designers, I think, originally wanted it to be. And then by the time you hit like 10th level, I mean, you're looking at I mean, you gotta really get creative to make things challenging. But like, as long as you kind of realize that, once you kind of like get that experience under your belt and you can kind of like see those numbers and you can still use them as a guideline very, very effectively. So like, for instance, I'll use like Cobalt Fight Club to help kind of balance some things, but when it says like deadly encounter for my level 5 party, I don't necessarily believe that or trust that, but like I see what they say the challenge rating of it is, and like I just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of like have that experience of what that number means for this party. I think it's a very flawed system, but I don't want to trash it too hard. I think it's really difficult to boil all of a monster's abilities down to one number. But
I think it's also a happy accident too, though, because it's like, okay, well, we've given you a guideline from like 1 to whatever. They may have wanted it to be this way, but it's like Viagra. It was supposed to be a blood pressure medication. It turned into a happy accident where guys can have sex. Use your creativity. It's
right,
fine.
right. Like, I agree. Like, I don't think it's what was originally intended by the CR system, but it still works, right? Like, you can still look at the number and see, okay, this thing has a challenge rating of 15. It's probably more powerful than that thing with a challenge rating of 9. Yep, that's a pretty good assumption, and that does help as a guideline to balance things. Right. Another question, what is the best way to build a boss encounter? Do you buff their hit points, add different abilities, use minions?
Yes.
I do all those things, but what is just the overall question, what's the best way to build a boss encounter, in your opinion? Because there are multiple ways
themes. I like themes, and my biggest regrets is when I've had boss encounters where they get snuffed out too quick.
Yeah.
So I'll make them a bit of a bullet sponge in certain cases. I will keep their abilities normally unless it's a homebrewed thing. But if I want it to last longer, I'm going to make it last longer. But I don't want to be like, oh, you hit it and not take away any HP from it. I just want to put an XP number on there for myself. So that way I can gauge it. It can feel more of like an epic encounter to where you're strong, it's strong. It's going to take a while, but it's supposed to be designed as an epic encounter. It's not a dice roll. This is, I can kill you, but you can kill me. But it's going to be very difficult. So I do all those things. So yeah, I will use all those things in those cases. Yeah, like most bosses are not going to be alone unless if they're alone, that's when you should be the most scared. Yeah. Because if they're alone, that means they're confident enough to whip your party's ass.
Right. Yeah, I'd say I do all those things. I think, do you buff hit points? Yes, you have to.
You have to.
At like levels 1 through 5, you might not have to, at least not very much. But again, once you hit 5 and beyond, like you just have to, unless you are incredibly stingy and don't ever give your players any fun stuff.
That's no
even
fun.
Then, man, even then, like they do so much damage still. So it's just too hard. Plus, like you can buff a creature's AC also, but don't go too far with that, because from a player's perspective, it is a lot more fun to hit something but have to hit it a lot more times than to constantly be missing. So sure, go ahead and buff the AC, just don't go too far with that. Buff the HP more. Add different abilities. Yes, every boss that I will make will always have legendary actions, whether they're a legendary creature or not. That way, it helps to kind of turn the action economy against the players, because my boss is acting more often. Plus, it lets the boss be epic and powerful. Like they get to do extra things that the players don't necessarily get to. Now, I make the legendary actions normally be pretty reasonable, right? Like they're not, if it's a dragon, they're not getting to use their dragon's breath or whatever as a legendary action. No, but they'll be able to make a tail attack.
Right.
You know, so it's if they're an archmage, they're not casting a level 8 spell as a legendary action, but they might be able to cast a level 1. So it's making sure that those legendary actions are less powerful, because their turn should be the real meat. But they can still like do stuff when it's not their turn. Lair actions are kind of the same way. You can do some cool stuff with that. And then yes, I'd definitely say minions for sure. And unless, like Steve said, if it's if you're going up against an ancient red dragon, yeah, maybe not. Maybe that dragon will just wipe the party.
He's gonna fuck you up, bud.
But for most bosses, yeah, why would they not have minions? You know, why would that necromancer not have an army of undead at his disposal? You know, there are even abilities that you can give your boss to summon bad guys, right? Like you could make a necromancer with like a variation of an animate dead spell to where they can summon like 1d6 skeletons every turn or something like that. And that, again, they can just pelt the party with arrows. They'll be a nuisance. You might get to peel one of the party off to try and take care of them instead. And then I would also say with a boss, that is when I will definitely check out The Monsters Know What They're Doing book, and read up on some tactics and try and play, I will try and play a boss as tactically as possible, to just kind of make them feel more deadly, I suppose.
I admit I like using my own tactics. I do like using my own.
Well, I suggest that book because it's fantastic.
I know. It is good. I've seen it. I have seen it. I have taken a few things from there.
Do you usually have ways of testing your players before the encounter you are in need of balancing, or do you trust that they can determine if they survive it by themselves?
I have to trust them. I 100% have to trust them. If I am constantly holding their hand, I'll hold their hand in certain situations, of course, because if it's story, I don't want to wipe an entire party because that's no fun for me. I want to see how it plays out, but I have to trust your abilities and your thought processes to figure it out. And 9 times out of 10, I am blown away.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I'm gonna trust you.
That's part of why I err on the side of making things more difficult also. First of all, like I said, you can't ramp up the difficulty in the middle of combat, but you can a little bit with legendary actions, but still. But yeah, my players continually surprise me with some really creative ideas. Like, most of the time, my encounters are like, yeah, this might be too much. I can pull back if I have to, but I usually don't have to because someone's done something creative that really I wasn't expecting, or they just are really, really powerful and did a lot more damage than I expected. I don't have any way of testing the encounter beforehand usually, unless I will say I have thrown very powerful encounters against the party that aren't meant to be like fights to the death, but are more like me gauging how strong they are.
Yeah.
But you can throw those like barometer encounters in there just to see. But again, that's an encounter to gauge the level of the party. You're not you don't really have anything else that I can think of to do that. We talked about Kobold Fight Club a little bit. I like it. It's a good guideline. Let's see. This is a good one. What is your personal definition of a balanced encounter?
That's the thing. It's not always supposed to be balanced for me. Sometimes it's balanced in your favor. Sometimes it's balanced in mine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that trust factor comes into play. But if it's supposed to be like what I call a quote unquote travel encounter, I will use a CR level appropriate creature or make it appropriate for that group and their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's where I'll do that. That's sometimes, but I am a big fan of like sometimes the encounter is going to be difficult. Sometimes it might be easy. Sometimes it might be social. You know, that's to me that's like you're not always going to have that. Some people be like you can always balance your encounter. That's true, but for me, I am a big fan of balance, but at the same time, sometimes I want you to shine like the badasses that you're supposed to be. Sometimes I want you to really earn that shit.
Yeah.
So it goes back and forth for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd agree. I think there are times when an encounter should be balanced in favor of the party or in favor or against the party. But yeah, I would say a balanced encounter, like a well-balanced encounter that's not meant to favor either side, should challenge the party. It shouldn't be a cakewalk. They should be challenged. Right. I feel like an encounter that can or does down a party member, but doesn't necessarily kill anyone, is a pretty well balanced encounter. That's kind of the sweet spot for me. Is if it has the ability to down and or challenge the party, then I think that's a very well balanced encounter, as long as it's not so far in favor of the enemy to where they are killing party members. So, like, my goal is usually to challenge the party, potentially down someone, but I never want to kill a player. I will, but that's kind of the sweet spot for me. That's what I would consider a well-balanced encounter. One that challenges the party, maybe someone goes down, tension is built, but it's a story for next time, you know. They get through and get to regale everyone in the tavern and see how many women they get to bed that night. You know, one of those Dash Wilder conquests.
Oh yeah, you got to climb that mountain one way or the other, right?
Yeah. Do you do random encounters during travel / downtime, and how? Talked a little bit about this, but I like this one. So yeah, how do you handle like random encounters or travel encounters or whatever?
I don't necessarily like random encounters for me personally. I like things that I know are going to happen. Now, there's occasions I'll use them. I use them a lot in early levels, but sometimes if I want the story to move, I'm not going to have random encounters because, like, if I'm too busy rolling random encounters, I can't have any progression on my end, and I got to have fun too, guys. So, but there's going to be times where if I think if I need them, I'm going to use them. So, like, I am big on downtime though. I like after major accomplishments, like major story arcs. I love downtime. What do you do with that downtime? How much time do I give them? I've given players as much as a year because, like, something that I was testing in my last campaign, and this was one of those like aha moments where this needs to make sense for me. Is the world is not always on fire.
Yeah.
You're going to have times of peace. You're going to have times where where your adventure party is not needed. What are you going to do with that time? You got a lot of gold too. I go home, I travel. I use those as like actual fun role play moments too, like social cues.
Yes.
Like there was Adrian took you and the barbarian back to his parents. We had some fun little social cue, you know, like stuff. You got to sell more of your book. You got to do little things that were fun that weren't battle-based encounters. They were social encounters. Sometimes you may roll and you may learn a new skill. Sometimes I'll reward players with a feat, you know, especially if it was good role player stuff. I like to use that kind of stuff at the end of major events because I think that's a lot of fun for me. Maybe you learn skills, maybe you earn a feat, that kind of stuff. I love that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like I like stuff happening during downtime, but again, I wouldn't. Yeah, maybe there'll be like a social encounter or whatnot. I don't think I've ever had a combat encounter during downtime, and I don't know that I would ever want to. But yeah, no, I like using downtime, and downtime should show up exactly like you're talking about. There's time when, yeah, the world is not on fire. And I mean, you don't necessarily have to take that as downtime, but like that would be a situation a lot of times, because I like to run pretty open-ended campaigns, where I ask the party, I'm like, hey, so nothing's going on right now. Is there anything that you want to do, or do you want to take some downtime? Or maybe I'll say, hey, there's a year-long period where nothing happens. We'll kick up after that time with something, like there'll be an event. But in the meantime, what do you guys want to have done for a year? So yeah, I like using downtime for sure. As far as like random encounters though, let me see if I can. Oh, that's not gonna work. Oh well, I don't have the setup right to do what I want to do. I have for random encounters, I have maybe I can. No, it's not going to. What I normally do is I have a certain number of encounters that I have pre-planned, and yeah, again, they're not just oh, you fight these things. This is what's happening, and here's kind of the background for it. So, for instance, I don't know how much of this I can do because it's Wine Room Adventure spoilers, but like, oh, here we go. Here's one.
I'm gonna take off my headphones here real quick.
Okay. So, like, I've got
you
one.
Like wink at me or something when you need me.
I've got one here where if I roll this one right here, it's a battle aftermath, and then what the encounter is there's some like undead creatures, and then I have a description here telling me what the background is. So I say the party comes across the aftermath of a large battle between warring factions. Some of the evil-aligned soldiers' spirits have refused to enter the afterlife, becoming undead creatures instead. Some of them will then like form into one giant creature and attack the party. So like there's a reason for what's happening there. It's not just, oh, here's some undead. It's here's the background behind it. I also like using non-combat encounters too for travel encounters. So I've got one here. Let's see. I've got one here. Yeah, I've got one here. If I roll it, it's a roadside vendor. Just one commoner there. And in my notes, I just say, a smiling roadside merchant roasts rats, frogs, and squirrels on sticks. He offers a bite to the PCs. Like, that's just a fun little thing. But I like doing that as well. So that's kind of how I do them. As far as the like how I do it, I have players roll a d12, and to be honest, it's mostly just so they can roll a die, and I determine whether or not an encounter will happen, more or less, if I want to. Steve.
Sorry, I don't like to know what's going to happen with my character.
No worries. I mean,
know that's crazy.
I didn't pick out anyone that's super spoilery, so.
Okay. Well, still, I like to find things in the moment.
Right.
So.
We are just about done here. I think I want to take this last one from Jazz as well, and then we'll probably call it. But his question is, how often do you flavor/reskin enemies in an encounter to make it fit the theme versus making up an encounter from scratch?
All the time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It saves me so much time.
Yeah.
When I can find something and reskin it. Oh gosh, all the time. Because like I'll make things customly, but like and John actually taught me this. He's like, why don't you just do this with Fantasy Grounds? And that has saved me so much time.
Yeah.
And I still change things around, but gosh, I all the time because I can make it the same but different. And that's really cool because you may be fighting a certain stat block, but it's a different creature.
Yeah.
Still different, but the same.
Yeah, I rarely make something from scratch. I definitely do. And actually there's some stuff coming up in the Wine Adventure Tour that I have. But most of the time I try and reskin something, or at least start from something that's already made. Like, there's so much out there that you can normally start from something else. Like, if you want to create some sort of I don't know if you like I'll say in a recent one shot I did, I had a blue dragon as the big baddie, and the blue dragon has lightning breath. So I had an idea. I wanted to have a bunch of lightning-centric enemies, and there's just not a lot. I think a salamander is one, but the CR didn't really fit very well, and I just didn't love it anyway. But I was like, what if I took a hellhound and reskinned it? And what I did is I made, I think I just called them like lightning lizards or something. I can't remember what I called them, but I took a hellhound. And I flavored it instead to be, rather than like a dog-like creature, it's a lizard-like creature. And I gave it a lightning breath. And instead of a cone like a hellhound has, I think a hellhound has like a 15-foot cone. I gave it a 30-foot line.
Nice.
And it shot electricity. Plus, I think it also like electrocuted you if you hit it or something like that. And
that's really cool.
But otherwise, it was a hellhound stat. Which I mean, I think the more that you can do stuff like that, just find something in the CR range that you're looking for, and you can reskin it pretty easily, rather than like if I would have made that creature from scratch, I could have done that too, but it it just would have taken me longer. Like, this way I didn't have to worry about its AC, its hit points, what its claw attack or bite attack should be like. The only thing I had to do, basically, was change fire to lightning. And then just, like, flavor it in my head as a lizard instead of a dog. But that's it.
Not a bad way to do it, man. That's a great way of doing it.
Well, with that, we are out of time for today. So thanks again, everyone who is here with us live. We appreciate you so much hanging out in chat and watching us as we do this. If you missed us, of course, you can always catch it on YouTube. It should be up later on. I've actually got quite a bit going on this week, so it might not be until the weekend or next week that I get it up there, but it'll be on YouTube. I'll make sure to alert the Discord when it is, and then, of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you're watching or listening on any of those platforms, again, click something wherever, or follow the link. You can join the Discord. That way you can know what we're doing ahead of time, leave questions, as well as follow all the other fun stuff we do. Speaking of which, you can catch Steve streaming off and on at Steve of the DMO. I know you're sick, so I anticipate you're not doing a whole lot of that.
I may go. I was live earlier today. I may go live in a little bit and play some Zelda. Like, what was frustrating though is I explored a lot, and my emulator glitched, and I lost all my content. So I was
no.
But
just like
it's
that.
fine.
Just like
sometimes it's the way it goes,
He streams off and on over there, though. Some Destiny, now some getting into some Zelda right now, and then he's got a D&D game every Sunday night, usually at 7 o'clock Eastern. He runs on over there. Not quite sure if it'll happen this week or not. I think the plan is to do so, but we'll find out.
The plan is, but as long as I'm not dying, so.
Then over here on the Fly Captain channel, we actually have a bonus weekend game this week on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing the Wine Women Adventure Tour. Should be loads of fun. Show up and stop by for that. Party's got a number of different ways that they can go, so we'll see what'll happen. Hopefully I'll have every direction that they could possibly go prepped.
That really does have like 3 or 4 arcs right now. Yeah. So it's interesting. I didn't think we would get presented with that much, but yeah, we got a lot to do.
So that should be fun, and then afterwards hop right on over to Steve of the DMO for that game with Jazz, yes. And then Tuesday we will be back here at Fly Captain. We're actually going to have I guess the continuation of a two-shot. Should be DM'd by Adrian.
Who did a very good job.
Yep. Yeah, the first portion of that we actually ran last night, so if you missed it, you can watch the VOD here on Fly Captain Twitch. But yeah, we should be finishing up that there. And then, of course, we'll be back here next Wednesday with a theme to be announced later. And, I'll obviously talk about this next week, but a week from tomorrow, next Thursday, I'll be having Session 0/Session 1 of my new game that'll be launching. It should be a lot of fun. Some new players. So it should be interesting.
Gonna mix that shit up.
Injection of some newer players starting level 1 again, low level D&D should be fun. So again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you next time. Peace out.
And if you love Asmodeus, shout yay!